Local history, local culture, local events, your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Fred Capozzella is our guest. Fred is a very avid bottle collector. We're going to be talking about bottles. He brought a bunch of bottles with him, and we'll show them to you. But before we do that, we're going to have a little chat and say welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, before we get to the bottles, and thank you for bringing them in. Before we get to the bottles, how long have you been collecting?
Probably in one form or another, close to 60 years.
What got you started?
My father was a cabinet maker by trade, so we were always surrounded by antiques. It was just normal. That's what we used them. They weren't things to look at. And once I was married, I had collecting bugs, so I started collecting some odds and ends, and gradually just went into collecting UTICA memorabilia, focusing on bottles and stoneware and stuff like that. I collect pretty much anything from UTICA I lack common sense and self-control. So it's been kind of fun, but a little frightening at times for my wife.
Do you remember the first bottle that you ever obtained?
Yeah, I do. We were wandering around after church, and the bottle club, which had just formed, had their first sale at the North Utica American Legion. So we stopped in, and I found a bottle that was Capozzella, spelled differently, from Boston. I said, well, this is kind of neat. So I picked that up, and it's been downhill ever since, I guess.
Yeah. You recall what you paid for that first bottle?
I think it was about $5 or $6 was all.
Yeah.
It was just,
Do you still have it?
I do indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever look in? Part of the interest here, part of the fun, I would expect, is getting the background of these things.
Oh, absolutely. I find, at least with the local stuff, a good chunk of what we do in the Bottle Club, for example, is the history not just of that company, but in some cases of the entire industry, which is represented. Our companies are just a small representative of that. It's fascinating.
The Capozzella bottle from Boston, what was that company involved?
It was a soda bottler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And back in the day, bottles were just everywhere, were they not?
They were. Well, you think about it, people need containers. If you're going to have a society, you're going to need containers. And there have been all kinds of things used for containers. A lot of them not particularly sanitary. Mm-hmm. Grasses, reeds, wood, bowls, that sort of thing. And then, you get clay pots, and then eventually when bottles became very inexpensive, easy to make, easy to clean, easy to keep sanitary.
It's interesting we're talking about containers because I was just watching a YouTube video about watches. And this was a very expensive watch, I forget the name of it now, French name. And the box that it came in, oh my God. So, and I think back in the day, you could say something similar about bottles. I mean, you might have had a concoction of such and such, but the bottle that it came in was so beautiful.
Yeah, it was for marketing purposes, something to stand out, So you ended up with some fancy embossing, some wonderful colors, and interesting shapes. One of them, and I brought a copy, were poison bottles that had to have all kinds of interesting shapes because you didn't want anyone accidentally using them.
Yeah, when you say poison bottle, what do you mean?
Well, it's something that was poisonous. For example, iodine, which we grew up with, for external use only, dangerous of that sort of thing. So the bottles would have all kinds of interesting shapes and colors and bumps and knobs on them, so people, if they just touched them, knew that it was nothing to be taken internally.
Yeah. The bottle industry today versus the bottle industry from the 1800s, I mean, just completely different.
Completely different, yeah. We are awash in plastic. When we grew up, glass bottles were reusable. Mm-hmm. It wasn't intended to be a throwaway society, because in many cases the actual container was probably worth a lot more than the contents.
The number of bottles in your collection, do you have any idea how many bottles you have? Do you keep track?
I do, but I probably only have maybe a third on display because I have accumulated so many. But I would say I'm probably up to the 500 or 600 bottle range.
Did you ever put a value on that, Fred?
Yeah, we carry antique insurance for that reason, because some of them, I brought a few of them here, would be very, very difficult to replace.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't talk so much about the price, but the replacement price, not the national price, which is meaningless, but the replacement price.
And when you talk about insurance, antique insurance, what's that?
Well, a lot of homeowners have a rider that
Gotcha.
you can get. They want a list of what you have, because otherwise the regular policy is replacement. So if you had a very nice antique dresser, for example, and lost, God forbid, in a fire, you could get a pressboard one, you know, as a replacement, but it's nothing near the value. So that kind of insurance can be very, very useful.
Before we go to take a look at the bottles, are you still involved with, let me see if I can get it right, Mohawk Valley Independent Learning? No.
Institute for Learning and Retirement.
MVILR.
Yes.
Are you still involved?
Very much, yeah.
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 That program's still going strong?
It's going very nicely, yeah. We, in fact, last fall we had a nice course on antiques and collectibles, which was very, very useful, I think, you know.
Did you teach it?
I did with one of the dealers from Bouckville, of all places. And we do a variety of other courses. This next fall, one of the other facilitators and I are combining. I'm doing Macbeth and he's doing the Japanese film version of Macbeth.
Oh, okay.
You know, which should be very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are courses in local history and stuff. You know, Frank used to do quite a few of those
Yes.
courses.
Yeah, Frank Tomeno.
Yeah.
I hate to let anything go by when we're talking about that institute without mentioning Nancy Dubner's name.
Oh yeah, our founder.
Yeah.
Our founder, yeah, very, very important. You know, we could not have created that program without her.
Mm-hmm.
She was absolutely crucial. In fact, I think she was on the list of possible nominees for Hall of Fame for the County History Center.
I believe so. Yeah. And she passed not that long ago.
No, just a few years ago.
Yeah, she did a lot of work for local history and in particular for the organization, which is now up at MVCC in Rome.
In Rome, yes.
Yeah. When's the next shot that people would have to get into that, take a course?
On the 12th of September, there's an open house up there. And the program starts, I believe it's the 23rd, whatever that Monday is. So you can go online at MVILR, it'll pop up with the catalog for next year and all kinds of other information.
And you are a retired educator, yes?
I am indeed.
Yeah, where did you spend most of your years, Fred?
UFA,
UFA.
your old stomping
My
ground.
old stopping grounds,
That's
yeah.
right.
We're going to be back. We're going to take a look at some of Fred's bottles. Short break, right back. And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Fred Capozzella is our guest. He's a very avid bottle collector, and we're talking about bottles, antique bottles. And Fred was kind enough to bring some of his huge collection with him today. And I'm not quite sure where to start off, Fred. The first thing I notice is color. You don't see colors like this anymore, do you?
No.
Because of the cost, I guess?
Well, I think I think partially, I think some of the idea with some of the colors was a marketing thing, just so they'd stand out on the shelves, you know.
Yeah. Let me start with one. I'm going to hold my breath here and pick it up. Robert's Ginger Ale. Was that from our area?
Oh yeah, these are with just a couple of exceptions. These are all Utica bottles.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know anything about? I've never heard of Robert's.
Robert's Bottling Works was probably a 20s, 30s outfit. You know, Robert's a fairly common Welsh name because there was a Robert's Dairy, a Robert's Hardware store, and so on. These guys were a good size distributor of typical sodas, ginger ale, root beer, that sort of thing.
Do you know where they were?
I believe they were on Broad Street at various times.
It reminds me of another bottling company that was on Broad Street. Pepsi was on.
You know, that's interesting because, as long as you mention that, this is, no, it's not this one. It is somewhere in here, is in Erie Bottling Works.
Oh, I saw it right here.
There, Erie, thank you. This is Erie Ginger Beer. The Erie Bottling Works did sodas, okay? Then they became, in our time, Freeman's.
Freeman's, yeah.
Which then became Pepsi.
Right, right.
So this is the forerunner of Pepsi, which is...
Let me hold this up here.
Yeah.
The thing I remember about Freeman's and Pepsi, and it was on Broad Street, on the south side of Broad Street.
Right.
They had a huge picture window, and you could see the bottling being
Going on,
done.
yes.
And I always
Yes.
thought that was so
Yeah.
nice.
This was ginger beer.
Ginger beer. Did they do anything else?
Oh, they did a ton of different kinds of sodas. Just the normal sodas. Ginger ale, root beer, sarsaparilla, all those kinds of things.
You know, Utica really did have, you know, when you think about beverages, alcoholic beverages and non-alcoholic beverages, Utica had a ton of stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah. McQuaid, as far as I know, is the only actual distiller in the city. But there were others who bought stuff from down south and bottled it. This is a Robichon from Utica, sour mash whiskey. And he would buy the whiskey from, I don't know if it was Kentucky or Tennessee, and then bottle it. And there are stoneware jugs with his name on it and so on.
Sour mash bourbon whiskey.
Yeah.
The McQuaid, that was Mountain Dew. McQuaid's Mountain Dew.
Mountain
yeah?
Dew was one of them. There were some others that he did
Were
too,
they?
but Mountain Dew was their kind of trademark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know where they were located?
They were located, I believe, down by the Gulf. I know that's where Gulf Brewery was, and I think they might have been down there too.
And for those who aren't familiar with the Gulf, it really was a Gulf.
Yeah.
You couldn't recognize it today, but tell people where it was.
It was off the Mohawk River, down roughly opposite maybe 2nd Street or 3rd Street, down that way.
Was it in the area of Quinn Playground today?
Well, it was much closer to the river.
River, okay.
But Quinn Playground, that's all fill.
Right.
From up by St. Agnes Cemetery all the way through there.
Because
is
that was
that was a ravine.
ravine, yeah.
And it is all fill, and I want very much to go dig it out, but
Yeah, who knows what you'd have in there,
there'd be
right?
a lot of stuff in
Which
there.
leads me to this question. Where do you find bottles like this?
Well, there are any number of possibilities. What you hope for are attic bottles, garage bottles, cellar bottles, things which have not been exposed to the element. A lot of the guys in the bottle club, in various bottle clubs, are diggers. They'll find old dumps or old privies, dig them out and find some absolutely wonderful stuff in there. I know privy sounds strange, but there's nothing left in there except
Yeah.
glass and some metal.
Are you a digger?
I used to be, but arthritis has slowed that down. If you're really interested in collecting bottles, though, or anything actually, you need to join one of the clubs.
Yeah, talk about your club.
The Mohawk Valley Antique Bottle Club is now 30 years old, and it meets on the second Monday of every month at the community room in the New York Mills Senior Center.
Yeah.
And there are collectors there of all kinds of things, from like me specifically, Utica, milk bottle collectors, collectors who specialize in historical flasks, the whole range of stuff. I found that belonging to that is probably saved me hundreds of dollars and a lot of embarrassment. Because you have someone who is familiar with that particular area and can prevent you from doing anything really, really dumb.
Yeah. Speaking of milk bottles that people collect, here's one from Utica, Uncle Sam's Dairy. I never heard of it.
Yeah, this is probably the priciest of the Utica milk bottles. Milk bottle collectors are the largest single group of bottle collectors by far. And that one, that's a World War II slogan on that one. And that's, as I said, the priciest of the Utica milk bottles. And they were on Lansing, I believe.
Lansing?
Yeah.
There was one in North Utica. I'm trying to think of it.
Riverside.
Yeah.
Riverside,
Yeah, and there were, the other one was, in fact, he went into politics afterwards.
Yeah, Tiny Williams.
Yes, yeah. What was his company?
Oh, shoot. If you hadn't asked me, I'd remember.
Yeah.
It'll come to me.
That's all right. What do you think makes the milk bottles so popular?
Well, I think for one thing, they're available. They're very colorful. You can get them all different kinds of sizes, okay? And people, some collectors really specialize. For example, there's a whole group that specialize in World War II slogans, for example. Another group specializes in sporting sporting ideas on there, like golfers or whatever, tennis players. Others it's just a real reminder of.
I was just going to say, it's a memory kind of a thing,
absolutely.
too, right?
And there were a ton of local bottlers all over. Hamlines, Liberty, there was a Roberts, as I told you. Besides them, the Perry, that's a relative of Sunshine Dairies. Okay.
And I remember this. I'm old enough to remember these bottles coming to the house and having the little door where the milkman would come. He'd put the bottles in, take the empties out, and they had the cardboard top like there's on that.
Yeah, and these are homogenized. A lot of the earlier ones had the cream top when the cream separated and was at the top. Yeah.
So bottles bring back a lot of memories for people.
They do.
Yeah.
We in the Bottle Club, we probably a couple of times a year will have a request from someone whose family ran a dairy and didn't keep anything, and they wondered if we could help them find it. It's pretty common,
Yeah. We've got time for one more before we go to a commercial. And famous Utica Club Sparkling Ale, the famous Utica beer. And boy, the brewery has put out some beverages over the years, huh?
They have. I brought that because I wanted to show that not all bottles are glass. Like the ginger beer or stoneware, there's a metal one. That's a cone top. They were popular from the mid-30s into the 50s. Between the transition from bottles to flat top cans, because the machines that did the bottles could be adapted to do the cone top cans before they had to buy new equipment for flat top cans.
I remember those cans.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll be talking more with Fred about the rest of his bottles. Short break, right back. And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. There's another bottle of Fred Capozzella's collection, and this is one of his favorites, and it is Jones's Hackety Hack. Boy, this will cure anything, huh?
It'll cure anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coughs, colds, croup, hoarseness, sore throat. I can't read the fine print, but they give you the dosage there. And this is from, and all that, it'll cure all that for 25 cents.
25 cents, that's right.
And this one's interesting, Fred, because it's still got something in
The
here.
original contents, yeah, a little frightening, but.
Yeah. Where did you acquire this?
Actually, it was at an auction that the County History Center had several years ago.
Oh, really?
Someone donated a variety of odds and ends, and I bid on that because I absolutely had to have it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And there's something embossed on the back.
yeah.
Jones's Hackety Hack, Cough Cure, Utica, New York. Were you ever tempted to take the?
No. Those things typically were some combination of alcohol and opium.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So they would work. I'm sure they take care of your cough.
Yeah.
And make you an addict in relatively short order. Well, it's a cure.
Yeah.
And that became illegal about 1906-ish.
Okay.
Pure Food and Drug Act. So
Was that called a patent medicine?
it was called a patent medicine, which is a misnomer because they were never patented. To receive a patent, you had to explain what the contents were. That's
Now
laudanum.
this sounds to me like another drug
Yep.
kind of a product.
Opium and alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was this for?
It was for pain, any kind of pain. Obviously, it was successful.
Yeah.
And once it became obvious how incredibly addictive it was highly regulated.
This is from a doctor or a
Yeah,
supposed doctor.
Supposed doctor. But to be a doctor, all you had to do is put DR in front of your
Yeah.
name. You know?
And this was again manufactured in Utica.
Yeah.
This is, you were telling me during the break, this
Yeah.
is one of your wife's favorites, huh?
Yeah, well, this is a pepper sauce, and these things come in all kinds of wonderful colors and shapes and whatever. They're very easy to collect, very fun to collect too. They were really a hot pepper sauce.
Regular hot pepper?
Yeah. The idea partially was to cover the taste of things that might have been off a tad.
Okay. And here's one that is embossed, another doctor.
Dr. Sans.
Okay. And what would this cure besides?
Well, these were utilitarian bottles. Who knows what was in there at the time. Sans was also kind of a wholesale, so he could have sold some of that stuff to other pharmacists to make whatever medications they wanted to make.
Things for medicine and cures and things like that. I mean, you go back to the early 1900s, pretty fast and loose.
Oh, absolutely.
Is this the poison bottle you were talking to us
This
about?
is a poison bottle. It's a coffin poison, it's called, shaped like a coffin. It would have had a label on the other side, of course. And the idea was with a shape like that and all those bumps on it, people who were not literate could just touch it and know,
Gotcha.
or look at it and know that it was not to be taken orally.
Now, what kind of poison would be?
Well, a lot of, for the most part, they're not poisons. They're things which are poisonous if taken internally, like
Gotcha.
iodine, for example.
Okay.
So they weren't intended to be poisons. That's fun. That is a Dr. Sans again, his life-invigorating bitters.
Yes.
Now, if you wanted back in the day to drink a lot and not have anybody know you're drinking a lot, you had medicine. And the medicine was a bitters, which basically was alcohol with something in it to make it taste funny. For example, iron salts, hops. A lot of times they put hops in there, and then you could pretend it was a medicine. So that stuff was very, very dangerous, I think.
Do you know anything about Dr. Sans?
I know he started up north, then he came down to Utica. It was a very, very successful one. That I probably have a dozen different bottles of things that he produced.
This one says Superior Water.
Yeah, that's a squat soda, the 10-pin shape, and squat sodas are a highly collectible bottle. They dated from the 1850s, 1860s, and they would have been like mineral waters, that sort of thing. And that's Edic, and the family, that road is named after the one up in North Utica.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, what I think is a beautiful bottle, in fact, I saw some of the bottles, I was in Saratoga at the racetrack this season, and they had Saratoga water.
There's an early Saratoga bottle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's from the Springs. The Saratoga bottles can run from $50 to $5,000, depending on the color, what bottler it was, and so on. You really have to know your stuff if you're dealing with Saratoga bottles.
Now,
that's a common one.
The bottles that they have now for Saratoga water, they're blue,
Yeah.
deep blue, and they're a nice shape. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you're a collector of those, you'd want one for the label. If you're a collector of Saratoga bottles, you'd want one of those for the label. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
The Eagle Brewery. Now, I'm familiar with the history of the Eagle Brewery. This was beer.
This was beer, and this is called the factory bottle. It's probably the fanciest of the Utica embossed beer bottles. Yeah.
Do you know where they were located? Were they over?
I was either on second or third on the corner.
Yeah,
there.
over by the golf.
Yeah, and the factory, I guess, was really quite spectacular. I've seen pictures of it on billheads.
Yeah.
But long gone.
Well, I know the camera can't pick this up, but it's embossed with a picture of the
factory.
The factory, pretty big.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Eagle Brewery. I shouldn't go down this path because I can't remember them all, but Utica was known for the number of breweries it had. Yes.
Easily over the years, probably 40 to 50 different ones.
Isn't that amazing?
Well, I think a lot of communities had quite a few because you couldn't transport it any great distance, refrigeration not being all that good at the time. So it made sense then.
And this one is?
That's a Hutchinson bottle. I had to bring that just because it's a Hutchinson bottle. The seal was on the inside. You pulled it up. There was a ring on it.
Okay.
You pulled it up, the seal from the inside. Never figured out how they cleaned them.
Right.
And the story is, for what it's worth, that to open them, you hit it like this to drive and that's supposedly where the soda pop came from.
Oh.
I have no idea whether that's accurate.
And what was in there?
This would have been soda or mineral water, something like that. Yeah.
If somebody wants to get started, I think you've probably already answered the question, but if somebody wants to get started collecting bottles, what's the first thing to do?
I really think the first thing to do is to join a club. I really do. There are literally hundreds of different types of bottles, and I think people need to focus on what they really want to collect, because otherwise you can end up with like one of this and one of that and two of those, which is sort of random.
Do you keep track? I mean, do you have a written record?
No.
No?
So I sometimes end up with duplicates that I didn't want.
Yeah.
But one thing I do have careful records on are stoneware, like that.
Oh yeah, we never talked about this. Maybe we'll talk about, because I know you're big into stoneware.
Stoneware,
Yeah. And next time you come back, we'll talk stoneware.
Wonderful.
Good. Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
That's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for being here. We'll be back next week. We'll do it all again. Don't forget cnyhomepage.com. There's a lot of good stuff there. Until next time, take care of yourself, everybody.